All right. Hello, hello.
Hello.
What is on? Hey, did you just put a shirt and tie on?
Well, no, I wanted to elevate my game here, but I figured, with all of your, your
Oh,
POTA
man.
and stuff like that, we just got to make things that much better. Paul and I felt like, we were just in front of, the business professional.
Yeah.
Got to do professional appearance when you're talking about POTA.
Yes.
Yes. Nice. Well, welcome everyone to the second Northeast Ham Radio Happy Hour. We are simply a bunch of hams in the Northeast that are ham tubers, content creators, podcasters that just love ham radio and are trying to promote it in our neck of the woods. It's that simple. So that said, let's go around and just do a quick round of introductions. Let's start with Rob.
Oh, I'm last on the screen. I'm Rob, N1NUG. Some of you may have seen my YouTube channel, 741. I'm in Connecticut, and among other things, I'm a ham radio enthusiast. I enjoy POTA and collecting old boat anchors and stuff, as you can see behind me. Back to you.
Okay, how about Paul? Paul from Vermont. This is the and for those of you watching and keeping score, this is the only ham radio show that you're ever going to see with two Pauls and one mic. So let's go. Let's go with the Paul in Vermont first.
And no Jasons. We should put that one out.
Paul, AA1SU from Vermont. I'm actually the section manager in Vermont, and I also enjoy collecting old boat anchors and playing around with them, see how they work. And I had visions of creating an AM station one day, and I still haven't done it. But I have the radios, and I wind up buying these estates and playing with some of the radios and keeping them and selling some to make my money back. And I've done some POTA activations with my club, the Radio Amateurs of Northern Vermont. And this year we're going to be doing our field day from a park. So we'll be up around probably 6,000 cues by the time the weekend's over from a park. And so I'm sure people appreciate that.
That's going to be fun.
Let's go to Paul number 2.
Hey, I'm Paul number 2, KF4TPY from Merrimack, New Hampshire. And I've never done a POTA Rove, but I'm very, very interested in the topic of conversation this evening.
Gotcha.
And now it's time to strip.
Great job.
You're going to get us all demonetized.
I know.
All right, let's go to Eric.
All right. Well, I'm Eric, call sign N1JUR, and as folks have saw, we're trying to just elevate my POTA game here, and Mike has set a very high standard, like we said, and going straight from the office and doing POTA activations just makes me want to aspire to him and get out there and do the same thing. I usually try to get down to my t-shirts and but all good there, and looking forward to talk about POTA Roves. I've done a few myself.
Awesome. How about you, Marvin? What's up?
Yeah, good evening, guys. Thanks for welcoming to the show, first of all. Glad to have you on here. Marvin Turner, the ham radio guy, podcast myself. Got POTA. In fact, I just did a POTA activation day up in Vermont at Fort Dummer State Park. It was a little more challenging than I would have thought beginning, but I've done a few POTA Roves myself, and I try and get them in when I can. But it's been a while since I've kind of done a park activation. Just moving into the Northeast here from in the south of Tennessee. So looking forward to getting some good park activations in here. I mean, it's not hard to go between, two parks in, half hour around here.
Yeah, definitely. How you doing, Matt? I heard we heard you took a spill.
Oh, I took a little spill. I have my boot on right now, and like Paul number 2, I've never done a Rove, and looks like it won't be for a while. I might do some car roving, drive out, toss a wire in the tree, or do a vertical, but I guess Paul and we got to get out there and start doing a POTA Rove.
Let's do it.
Yep.
Yeah. And I'm Mike, N2MAK. I do a lot of portable radio, and like Eric was saying, sometimes I'm just going straight from work, and I'll be the best best dressed man in the wildlife management area. So it is what it is, between work, family, kids and stuff. Like I get out when I can, how I can. And I'm lucky, like Marvin was saying, like New England, the Northeast, New York, there's just a ton of parks. And I'm lucky to have so many so close. So with that said, the topic we picked is POTA Roves. And so one thing, I don't know how many of you watching or on the channel are kind of new to POTA. And if you remember the Radar Awards, that's kind of the genesis of where this all started out. And I've actually done some of those Radar. That was short for Rapid Deployment of Amateur Radio. And that the caveat with the Radar Awards was you needed to switch between particular park references, and it had to be a certain distance, and that distance depended on if you were on foot, on bike, or in an automobile.
Yep.
And that is no longer the Radar program, I guess, still exists, or at least it did when POTA stopped doing the awards for it. But they switched to the Roves because at the end of the day, I guess what was more interesting to people was, the multi-park Roves. And I know an odd thing with the Radar, I did one, and I think I did 5 parks, and I had to zigzag because they were close to each other. So I couldn't go in a logical order, like a straight line, because otherwise the distance would have been too short. And I was like within a mile, like when I did like one of them, because I went out of order. So it worked out well. But, ultimately what we're talking about with the Roves, we're talking about getting out in the same UTC day and just hitting up multiple parks. And so I know a couple of you said that you haven't done them yet, but those who have, you got any memorable stories you want to share?
Oh, I have plenty, I guess. But to circle back on your Rove piece, I never understood it, and I always fought against it a little bit in trying to, fudge that factor, because if I recall right, didn't that distance increase as you got farther along each of those activations? I thought that the distance got a little bit bigger, or there was some caveat in it that, always got to me, just rubbed me the wrong way every time I did it. But my first Radar I did, or Rove I did, was a Radar, and it happened to be actually the same set of parks that I did that were also later as a Rove I did with Todd, who isn't here tonight. But that was always, it's one of those things when you do it the first time, you think you've got it all down and you got all your I's dotted and T's crossed, but there's always something. It throws a wrench in the system. And for me, it was like I ran out of water by the third park. And I was like, and of course, it was in the middle of nowhere. It's all in the residential neighborhoods and stuff like that. So that I would have to veer off a good 35 minutes to go get water to come back. And I'm like, oh, do I do it or just tough it out?
Yeah, there's I jokingly say like that these Roves, like when you're doing the multi-park ones, you and there's a lot of planning that goes into it, and that's kind of probably one of the things we should discuss, especially be helpful for those that haven't done it. But this always takes longer. I jokingly say it's like fish sticks. They always take longer than the directions say. Like you put fish sticks in the oven or French fries in the oven. Like I don't care what it says, it's always going to take longer than you plan for. There's always something that comes up.
That is for sure. Yeah, I there's not really a set list, I guess I could say, that you could give to somebody. I would just say do a lot of planning, then step away from it, and then come back to it a couple hours later, because you are going to be, too deep in the weeds a lot of times when you plan all the way through from A to Z, and you're always going to miss something. I like I said, water was a big thing for me. I'm trying to think what other stuff I forgot. But yeah, I'm sure we'll come to dive into it. But yeah, antennas, yes. Well, not this one, but yes, I am very unfortunate, I have to say, for getting antennas are always a big important thing for me.
I've even gone off and forgotten a microphone before. I've had a 991A. I was going to take it with me on a trip, and we were getting knocked out a couple of parks, and we get to the first one, start to pull it up. I was like, "Where's the microphone?" crap. It's a separate, completely little bag in my box. I didn't bring box with me. It's like, we don't need the box. We'll bring everything we need. We got everything. And just totally forgot the microphone. I was like, well, that blew that whole trip out of the water. So yeah, it's one of those things I would say you don't necessarily need a checklist, but I think it does have it is helpful to have like a little bit of a card or something with you, even if you just laminate and stick in your visor. Hey, I've got X, Y, Z. You know, it's good to have those things with you because inevitably you're going to forget something along the way almost every time.
Yeah.
Especially
I prefer the tattoo. Yeah, well, I prefer the tattoo. It's my last video to South Carolina. I said I'm going to get one on my forehead. So the tattoo for antennas might actually be more beneficial. At least I can see it in the mirror. I'll just put it backwards, so it's only visible to the folks that can see it.
In 2016,
I have a tattoo gun, so just let me know.
In 2016, I did national parks on the air quite a bit, and I was able to do it on my lunch break. A couple of parks up in Vermont, and I took a battery with me and shot a dipole up in the air, and I was able to run 100 watts for about an hour or so each time. One time I forgot the battery, and I was like, what do I do now? Well, there were jumper cables in the van, and this delivery van I had, and I just ran jumper cables over to the power cord for the battery. And I might have, did I leave the engine running? I don't think I even left the engine running to keep it charged up, but that's how I got around that.
Wow. That's ingenuity. That's ingenuity right there.
Yeah.
So I've only done 2 roves myself, both on the motorcycle. And the first one that I went out on, I planned everything out ahead of time. I planned my route. I knew how much time I had. I had all my gear. I didn't forget anything that time. It was great. And I went out and I got to the first park. And the area I was targeting was the north side of the Quabbin. And there were a couple of never activateds up there at the time. This was like 2 years ago, I think. And so I hit the first park. It went well. And then I went to find the second park. It was a state forest, and I can't remember the name of it now. And I had looked it up on the map. I knew right where to go. And I start going down this dirt road, you know, which on a regular street motorcycle isn't the easiest thing, but I've got dirt bike experience, so I was able to go carefully. And I get down to where the entrance is, and it's just a gate in the middle of the woods. And I'm thinking, okay, this is fine. So I get off the motorcycle, and within 30 seconds, I had mosquitoes like eating my flesh. So I gave up on that one. I said, no, because there was no open area, nothing. It was just a woods state forest. This was the only way I could get in. So I gave up on that one and then went and did a second park instead of the 3 that I had planned. But yeah, so even when you do have everything planned, sometimes things like that come up that just you don't think of.
Lots of deep.
Deep. My gosh, if they attacked you, did they haul you away?
Almost. You know, I was starting to, get off the ground, and I'm like, nah, I can't stay here. And if I had a car, you could go in the car and kind of hide from everything, but I had nothing to hide in. So, it was a beautiful June day, and they were hungry. So I said, this isn't worth it.
Yeah, we've in my kit that I usually carry, and I have what we call the fake spring kit, and before we get an actual spring summer of New England here, and in my spring summer kit I have like the deep bombs, like the big giant, like I can't remember what they're called. Todd brought me onto them, but basically they're just a small little battery powered or USB charge that basically has the thing, and you set it down on the desk and it works flawlessly. So like when you go into those deep woods, I just put like 4 of them around me in this like circular presence. Yeah, that's it. Perfect. Yes, exactly.
Thermocel's great.
Thermocells, yeah,
awesome.
Those things are great. Awesome. They're the best thing to use when you're out doing that. There's only one activation I can really think of that I had one. I was down in Florida. We were down there for hamcation, and went to a couple different parks. And of course, it's a lot of sand everywhere. And there was no-see-ums. They're like little tiny microscopic like bugs. Oh my gosh! And obviously you can't see them, and it's like I was itching. It was terrible. I had to get medication. And that was the worst. And that was my worst activation ever. When I did like 3 or 4 parks when I was in hamcation that week, and man, it was just that was the worst one I've ever had. with bugs.
And the question is, did you activate the park? Did you get the park?
Yes, we did get to activate the park. Yes, I did get that. Yes, I wouldn't leave without that. That was even like today. I was like, I'm not leaving until I get my at least 10. So
I've been through those too as well.
Yeah, I one tip, the thermocell is great. I keep a thermocell in my car, like with some of my like ham sticks and antennas that are always in the trunk. But one other thing that's in my trunk, which is certainly handy for roves, and I'd recommend it for anyone who does it, but I think it's great to do for like any POTA activations, is I got in the habit of printing out a paper copy of the park maps. Now in New York, and I don't know how it is for other states, at least most of my activations are at state parks, state forests, state parks, wildlife areas. And the DEC has a website for each of the parks, and each of those has a PDF map. And so I would print out a paper copy of the map, and I at least write the park number on there in ink. I would sometimes, if it's a twofer or a threefer, make note of that, so I knew like all the park numbers. And if you get into one of those situations where you got like spotty cell service, at least if you've got a paper copy of the park map, you know where you are. But if you wrote down that park number on there, then you know your park number too. Now, I'm not going to go through and update all of them and change them all to US, because we know that that's coming. But what I did do, rather than just throw them out, recycle them, is I punched holes and did a 3-hole punch, and then put them into a binder. So that binder is in my trunk, and it's all the parks I've ever activated. So the maps are there. And if I ever find myself, in a particular neck of the woods where I want to activate a park, like I've got a hard copy of the map there. And I know some of them I've done, you show up and you don't know till you get there, oh wait, no, I got no data service, or I'm in and out. And so that's a handy thing to do. And if you print them out, just save them, put them in a folder, put them in a binder, keep them in your car or something. That's my tip.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Mike, have you ever done like after action reports on those on the back side maybe, and said, hey, I made 10 activations, no cell service. It was the best place was at this part in the park. I mean, have you ever done any notes like that afterwards?
No, and that's a good thing that I should do, because now there's a couple parks like I've done a few times, and I know which ones kind of have the spotty cell service, but I might do those parks maybe only twice a year. And it's kind of like you get out there, you're like, oh wait, yep, nope, it's in and out here, and that's a good idea. And I think Lou, who has a channel, Hiking and Hammond, he did a video in the last month about a POTA wiki, where you can go in and kind of make notes on some of the parks and stuff like that. And something like that would be helpful for others too, to let them know, hey, yeah, there's no cell service, or there's only room for 2 cars to park on the side of the road, or whatever the conditions are. So
whatever happened to the whole like parks database used to have or they were developing that component where there was going to be like kind of a bulleted list of things in the park description, of like, you need to walk in or to drive in. Did they ever like, capitalize on that or continue to build on that? Because I don't think I heard anything much around that.
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Yeah, because that's where ultimately I think that would be the best place for that information, because in essence you're going to be doing some recon, checking out the parks and stuff. So having it there as a kind of this is my 411 on what you want to do when you're at the park is kind of a golden nugget to have.
Yeah. Now I got a question for the group. Those of us that have done the Roves, I'm curious to see, because this can maybe be controversial, so we'll get this out of the way right away. When you're doing the Roves, you got to get those 10 contacts in, and I know that there's those that are they're going to go do the Rove, and they want to get maybe a dozen. They want to get 12 contacts, get that insurance, and then they're done. They're down the road, off to the next park. Pile up or not, they're in and out, and so kind of what's your approach to how do you handle that when you're doing a multi-park Rove? If you've got a pile up, are you going to go through and exhaust it, or are you just going to get out of Dodge and off to the next? And if so, how do you manage that?
I was dealing with that today. I didn't do a Rove today, but I went out and did one park, and it was getting to be time I had to get back for dinner, and I just had to pull a plug. And I mean, there were guys that I didn't work yet, but nobody came back and said anything like after I said I was done. So you just got to pull a plug. I mean, I've had it happen when I've been hunting, sit here for 20 minutes trying to get somebody, and they just got to pull a plug and go. So I think most people understand, when you're done, you're done.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd agree with Rob. I mean, when
Most
I
people.
was,
Yeah,
sort of right.
not everyone.
We're not going to, give the sad hams their platform, but I would say for me, like I usually when I did my 7-park Rove, the best thing I did is try to set a schedule, and in that schedule, it's like, okay, first park, once I get to 10, before I even get to 10, in the log, I'm like, okay, I'm letting people know when I do my CQ, hey, I'm on a Rove. Where we're going to be rolling a couple different parks. You can hit us a couple different times. You watch the spotting page and just kind of communicate that out there a couple of times. And then so when I get to like the 12th contact, at that point, I find it actually just goes dead because most people are like waiting for me to say, hey, we're done. We're going to roll to the next park. And then a lot of them guys are just waiting for us to hit the next spotting page and roll from there. So that was kind of a little bit of a tip that I learned with my first Rove I did is that let people know in advance that I'm not here for the long duration. I'm going to be in a bunch of different places.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. Another one that's worked well for me, and whether it's a Rove or if it's just an activation where I'm doing, I got to get out of the park or I got to get home for dinner or something, is I'll usually tell people I'll take 3 more contacts. And this is something one of my Elmers who's the POTA mapping coordinator for New York told me about, and he does it. And then I'll count down. So I'll say, all right, I'll take 3 more contacts, and then I'll work the next person and I'll say, okay, I'll take 2 more. So I let them know I'm actually counting. And then I'll say, okay, this is it. Last one, I got to, take down, get to the next park. And I've found that when I do that countdown, and when people hear you say 3, okay, but then you come back the next call, you're like, okay, 2 more, that's it. And they realize, okay, yeah, he's keeping score here. So
Tricking hands got the right idea. Just turn your volume down.
I don't think I've done, I'd have to look. I don't think I've done a Rove where I've incorporated an ATNO, an all-time new one. I know when I've gone out to do ATNOs, like it's a brand new park, it's never been activated, I try to make sure that I'm there for a while and I'm at least on, 20 and 40 to give people regionally or across the country like an opportunity to work it. But I'd feel bad packing up and leaving an ATNO really quick. But I don't know that I've ever worked one of those into a Rove before. Usually when I'm roving, it's ones I've done before. They've been done many times.
How many ATNOs are left? I mean, there's not probably a whole lot. I would assume that it's probably gonna be like a almost golden, opportunity to find one if you got lucky, and try to plant it in a Rove.
Yeah, when I got into POTA, like that first year or so, there was a handful. There was a lot of state forests, wildlife areas, and I maybe got like a dozen or so of them, and most of them they were ATNOs for a reason. I mean, that you had to go out of your way to get to them, and there was not a strong ham density in that particular region. So a lot of these things are ATNOs for a reason. They added a bunch back in the fall. I got one on my way back from a work trip, and I thought about trying to work 2 ATNOs and roving and picking up 2, but I ended up staying and I worked 20, 40, and 10 to just try to give as many people an opportunity. And when I got a tech that hunted me on 10 meters, he was like so grateful that I was activating and it was an ATNO on 10 meters. And that changed my perspective a lot. Just, we had a nice little QSO because he was studying, he's already upgraded to general and stuff. And, that kind of changed my outlook, a little bit there when you're doing some of those new ones or those very unique or rare parks. Give people an opportunity to get them.
Yeah, I think when we did our 7 Rove park, Todd and I, we just got really super lucky because it was all up on the coast. And so we just stayed on 10 meters from the first park all the way pretty much until 10 meters died, which is like into the 5th or 6th park. And so it was just like like 10 meters just was just super busy the whole entire time. And it just happened to work out with that, we were just getting a lot of Europe from the beach. So we were just, dependent on, them. We'd tell them, we're gone, in 10 minutes, and they'd be like, okay, we'll catch you at the next park. And it was just literally this kind of like, hey, we already got you at this park. We'll get you at the next one. And lo and behold, they were in the log in the second one. So, it was pretty easy, almost, kind of a no-brainer to be able to just stay on one band. But yeah, I haven't done a Rove where I've done more than one band, I think.
Yeah, a lot of times I'm on the Roves. I'm trying to just stick to one, and it's easy if you're using a ham stick or something that you can do like a quick deployment. So if you're going to be setting up a dipole or something, it's going to take a lot longer than it is to throw a mag mount on a roof or something. So a lot of times if I'm doing those multi-park Roves, it's just, I'm throwing a 20 meter or 40 meter ham stick on the roof, getting a dozen or so, and then kind of off to the next, depending on how busy it is at the time or not.
Yeah. Or as, KG2M says, an ATAS 120. I love my ATAS when I forget my antenna because that's just my backup. I leave that in the truck all the time, and every time I'm like, oh, I forgot my antenna. Oh no, I got an ATAS. I'm good.
Yeah, that's what I've got in my F-150. So I've got a aluminum body, so of course magnum mounts are absolutely pointless at this point. So I had to come up with another way to do this. So ATAS 120. A great low antenna, and I had some great signals today, even on a POTA activation. But this was my second one that I've done. That I've actually struggled with using the ATAS 120 to get the park activated, and so I'm kind of thinking maybe I'll go back to my NFED halfways. But we'll see. I'm taking a road trip in 2 weeks, next week, and I'll be going from here to Wisconsin. So I'll be hitting a couple parks along the way. Over like that 2-day time period, and I haven't got exactly planned out which ones I'm hitting, but we definitely kind of be doing a Rove at that point. But we'll see how it does with mobile. I've had some great mobile contacts using the ATAS 120, and it's definitely one of the best ways to go. Some people say, well, that's not really setting up in a park. That's kind of cheating if you're just using your mobile, getting the vehicle and just going like that. But if you are trying to go from that park to park and make those quick activations, it's not a bad way.
See, I was going to give you a hard time and say that's cheating.
Yeah. I mean, you're not really setting up an external antenna or, using a battery,
Yeah. Has anyone done a Rove with a wire antenna, like a dipole or NFED half wave?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, you did? Oh, nice.
Yeah. Even the ones on my motorcycle. I have ham sticks I can put on my motorcycle. But I've used the NFED half wave too.
Nice.
Now, when I've done the Roves, I've only planned to do 3 parks at a time. I'm not trying to get, 10 parks. If I were, then I would probably stick to one band like you guys were saying, and probably just use a ham stick or something, whether it's on the car or my motorcycle or something like that. But
yeah, I did a Rove last June, International QRP Day. I think it's like the 17th or so. It's in June. I didn't know that there was an International QRP Day. I just kind of stumbled on it, right? And I was like, okay, I got to do something fun for this. And so I did something unique, and it was very challenging, but it was fun. I did a 5-park Rove with 5 watts and 5 different antennas. But
wow,
I let I saw Kevin in the chat earlier. I don't know if he's still there. His Facebook group, the QRP SSB Facebook group, I let them vote on the 5 antennas. And so they sent me out. The first park, I used a Rybakoff antenna. So that's like a 25, 26 foot vertical random wire with a 4-to-1. Then I used a mag loop at the second. I used a 35.5 foot random wire at the third. The fourth park, I used Wolf River Coils 17-foot telescoping vertical, like a quarter wave on 20. And then the last park I used the KM4 ACK 40-meter end-fed half wave. And that was a challenge, definitely, especially, 5 watts on a mag loop SSB and stuff. But I got it done with 15 minutes to go before the end of the UTC day. And it worked out, and it's, it was all the lessons that you could possibly get. I got in that one day, from the first park not having cell service to spot myself to, the difficulty trying to set up at one of the wildlife areas where there were 3 other cars. I had just enough room to park my car. I don't know what was going on in the wildlife management area that day, but there was it wasn't hunting season or anything. But everything that could possibly happen or whatever happened, and it worked out though. It was a good challenge, and you learned a lot from operating low power with these different types of antennas. And at the end of the day, you can actually get it done too with 5 watts if you need to. So
now, I gotta ask a question. This is a controversial one. Obviously you did the Rove. Were you setting out to do only low power?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so you originally started. Okay, so I guess I was say
yeah, that was the challenge. I jokingly called it, and those who are Gen Xers will remember, get the reference. I called it the Blonde Ambition Tour, because echoing back to Madonna's Blonde Ambition. But I was like, nope, I want to do 5 parks, 5 watts, 5 different antennas, and I picked the parks because I was going around one of the Finger Lakes, and they were all about 15-20 minutes apart. It wasn't too bad, but it takes longer when you're setting up all those different antennas, especially wire ones where you're putting up masts, taking them down, and setting out radials or whatnot. It all adds time, and but
what was
at the end of the day too, you can get it done with a good antenna and low power if the conditions and the bands and everyone else cooperates and doesn't step all over you.
What was your most challenging antenna that day?
I struggled with I think that the mag loop was tough, because I'm good with it. I've had an Alex loop for going on 3 years, and I'm decent tuning it, but I struggled with the mag loop a little bit because I had to rely more on 40 meters than 20 when I used it at that point to get enough contacts. And mag loops, if you've ever used them, they're much better performers on the higher bands than the lower ones. And if you go to something like 40 meters on the mag loop, you only get a very narrow bandwidth that you can use. Very quiet.
I just ordered an alpha antenna yesterday, so we'll see when it gets here next week. So that's one of them I will be using next week as well on the trip to see how it works. I've never played with one, so I'm kind of curious to see how it goes.
Yeah, I had trouble on 20 meters that day. I wasn't doing as well, and the first antenna I used was the Rybakoff, which that would be a 3/8 wave on 20 meters, and it should have a lot of gain and a nice lower takeoff angle. And I had to lean on 40 meters, which is something we can do in the Northeast, to get it done. And it's much shorter than a quarter wave on 40. But, sometimes I guess it's band conditions too. And I wasn't getting out there that well. And I can't remember if it was a contest day or what. I don't check the conditions usually when I go out. I just go out when I can.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Eric.
I got a question. So just in general, because I know Paul Vermont Paul had mentioned that he's a big AM guy. Any of you guys do AM at all with any of your POTA, whether you did Roves or not? I'm just curious.
No.
No. And you have the desire to do AM?
Give AM a chance. That's what I say. I only started doing it.
I don't even do AM at home yet.
Earlier this year.
Oh, okay. So
I've been meaning to try it, but I haven't done it. But you've done it, right, Mike?
I've done it a few times. I started, and the idea came from Shane on Ham Radio Clubhouse. He mentioned it, and one of my personal amateur radio goals for the year is to do, some new modes. And so I did. I wanted to go out and I did AM. I did RIDI during a contest in the winter, and then for the first time on Winter Field Day, I went out and did JS8 call at a park, and that was fun. And just, I'm trying to try some new things. And so AM, I mean, just some bad. You just hit a button and off you go. But a lot of my Roves are QRP with the 705, and the 705 is only going to push out, I think when I looked at it, 2.5 watts on AM if you have a battery, and I think it's like 1 watt without the battery on AM. And so like the 7300, if I go out and do AM, if I have it cranked to 100%, I'm only pushing out the equivalent of 25 watts, which is perfectly fine if you got, and I've used dipoles or quarter wave verticals on 40 meters when I've done it, and it's usually in the evening, and that's worked out fine. But it's definitely it's a challenge trying to find enough space, like especially on 40 in the evening. You're taking up twice the bandwidth as you would on sideband and whatnot. So it's just to find an opening is half the challenge.
Mike,
but then you got to deal with the power.
Mike, do you do CW when you're doing low power, or just phone?
I haven't done CW yet. It's on the to-do list. I probably won't get to it for another year or two, but I will. I don't have a permanent station at my house, and that's my challenge, because when I want to wait till I get something set up, and then I'll dive into CW when I can do that regularly to practice and kind of learn it. But I haven't done that yet.
Anybody do FT8 from a park?
Yeah, the manual version of CW. yeah.
That was my next question, Paul. Has anybody done a true activation with just doing FT8? And I can say I have not. So
I see a lot of parks on the air on FT8, and I try to work them, and it's difficult. You don't know what their park number is, but I guess it doesn't really matter, because you wind up on their if they log you wind up in the database anyway, right?
Yeah. I didn't do a Rove on FT8, but I did one of my first Vermont, not one of my first Vermont parks, but one of my Vermont parks when I was doing a lot of work up in that area. I did FT8 only because the bands were just so staticky that day. So I was like, all right, well, I've got the laptop here. I'm just going to flip it over. And it worked actually pretty flawlessly. I was able to at least activate the park and not struggle with the sideband trying to, squeak out a contact.
No, I gotta say, I'm a sideband in the park kind of guy. I love sideband, but when I borrowed Eric's radio, and I just released the video about 5:30 today, I used that FX4CR, and the sole purpose of figuring out that radio was to see if I could do FT8 in the park, and it's so freaking boring. Like, I was bored to tears sitting in the park, and I'm like, yeah, all right, I'm making some contacts. This is great. Oh man, I would rather talk to people.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that.
Amen to that.
Rob didn't want to be the only one.
Yeah. No, I don't have any problem with FT8. I'll do it from the shack here once in a while. But yeah, after about 100%. An hour, I'm done with it. And I'm good for about 6 months, and then I'll do it again, But it's a cool technology. But yeah, for POTA, I want to get away from the computer. I'm out doing other stuff. But yeah, to the people that do it, that's great.
Yeah, one of the times I'll do it is and soccer season's coming up, so I'll be doing more FT8. My youngest son happens to have, and I'm very fortunate that a lot of his soccer practices are at a POTA park. Oh. And so I have no qualms about, on the nice days, May, June, July, just sitting in the car. And that's
I'll take him to soccer practice, no problem.
Yep, I totally. I'm like, I'll bring Jake this Saturday morning, and boom, put a ham stick on the roof, just real quick. I don't want to take up too much space where setting up. I don't want to get in the way of everyone. Everyone's already looking anyway, but I'll do FT8 there, and and I'll sit there with my coffee and just to do something where I I'm not being loud, I'm not being obnoxious, I'm not taking up space, and it's it's got its utilities, but I like talking with people, like a lot of people do. So
I mean, you're not screaming whiskey six again, whiskey six again.
Yes. Yeah, it's kind of one of the, everyone's different. There's some people that'll go out to parks and they want to fly the flag and the POTA flag and brochures and a banner and everything. And I've always kind of been because a lot of us are introverted at heart. Like, I don't want anyone to bother me because I don't want to have to talk to real people. I'd rather talk on the mic and not in person.
Don't want to leave there litter.
Yeah, I don't want to attract too much attention, but it is what it is.
I got a curiosity question. You guys kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but when I'm out in a park, I like to do longer activations because I like to, I'll rag chew with certain DX stations and stuff. For me, it's a dual purpose thing, right? So I'm getting out in the park, I'm getting into nature, and I'm enjoying myself, but I'm also there for the hunters, right? And so I always feel bad, like, all right, I'm losing daylight or I'm getting cold, we're gonna have to cut it short. How do you guys personally handle doing a rove where you have to keep it short? I mean, if it's, then it's all about you, right?
Well, first and foremost, I know it's all about me. That's kind of how I start the rove out. But yes, side cheek, side cheek humor. But from a rove standpoint, we didn't kind of touch upon it, but if you do a rove on your own, it's very different than you're doing with someone else. And we can probably touch upon that if we want to kind of go to that road. When I did it on my own, I was only able to get 5 parks down. And like I said earlier, like I learned after the second park where I was like finding out that the 10 minutes or 20 minutes I was giving myself to be able to operate on the air was now going 35, 40 minutes long, because I was just like, wow, this is just real fun. I'm getting, all the, excitement, and everyone, I'm telling people I'm on a rove, but, they're still coming like a big pileup is. And I'm just like, I got to cut this short. And so I learned, after like the third park, that I was just like going to just keep repeating and regurgitating over and over again that I'm on a rove, I'm on a rove, I'm on a rove. And that just kind of communicated to folks that, once they hit the spotting page, people were typing in comments, oh, he's on a rove, he's on a rove. And, those folks would then, those that didn't want to work that, big pile up to, make that contact or whatever, just didn't, they steered clear. And so I really got kind of just a combination of the smaller contacts, but I got, the same people over and over again, because that's what they were excited about. And they were waiting in anticipation for me to get to the next place to get set up.
So I'm sort of like with you, Paul. When I'm out doing POTA, I like to take my time. So the few roves that I've done, I've limited it to like 2 or 3 parks so that I can fit it in the time frame that I have and spend, time and make 20, 30, 40 contacts at each park. On top of that, I figure, I just want to enjoy the park a little bit. I don't want to just, be there for 10 minutes and leave kind of a thing. But so that's the way I approach it. Would I ever do like a 10 park rove? Maybe, but probably not.
When I've done the roves, a lot of my normal activations are just impromptu. It's kind of like, soccer practice got canceled, I got time to go out and play radio, or there's an opening in the day, or it's kind of not planned out. I have enough parks near me that I can just head out to a park pretty quickly and bang one out. But with the roves, you're doing a lot of planning. You're looking at maps, you're trying to figure out what the best way is to get in between these parks. And that's one of the times I'll do this when I do an ATNO or ATNO. It's kind of like, it's like what the AT-ATs in Star Wars is. It an AT-AT or an AT-AT?
Now it's GIF, right?
Yeah. But yeah. So I will schedule the activations on the POTA website where you
Wow.
go in and you can schedule it in advance. And I'll put in the description, that I'm doing, this is part of a 5-park, I'm roving between these following parks, and I'll have a little bit of time. So those who are, serious hunters who are going through and they're looking in advance to see what activations are scheduled, they'll see that. And I'll usually try to I'll post something like that on social media, whether it's the POTA Facebook site or, my Twitter or something, and say, hey, listen, I'm doing this 5-park rove, tomorrow afternoon. So at least people know that you are roving and that you're probably going to be quick in between and stuff, but at least give people that heads up in advance so they know to look for you if they want to get that new park. But at the same time that, you're hitting up multiple locations, you're traveling, you can't be there forever.
Yeah. Now, here's a question. Has anybody done a dual rove where you're doing it with another person?
Yes.
Okay. And would you prefer to do the dual rove or your, rove on your own? Which is your preference?
It's fun when you got somebody in the car with you.
Right.
We did a rove, W2 MVP and I, kind of around the south shore of Lake Ontario during one of the POTA Support Your Parks weekends. I think it was like a spring one, like a year or so ago. And we hit up, I can't remember, it was 3 or 5 different parks. Mm-hmm. And we had a great time. It was nice to have somebody in the car, but if you've ever done multiple activations, it takes twice as long, or you get half as many contacts depending on how you look at it, and stuff.
Okay.
But I like going out, with people. I've done it with my son. That we only did 2 or 3 parks that one time. Whatever the lowest threshold was for radar, for him, which was like a 2 or 3 parks. We did it on one of the Support Your Parks weekends, which I think tends to be a popular time to do these big roves is around the Support Your Parks weekends. But it's nice to have somebody with you, but it takes longer.
Funny you say that, because like you mentioned the time length gets longer. I would say it's a little different from my perspective, because when I went with Todd, we did a 7-park. We were aiming for 10, and we had planned it all out from the bottom of Massachusetts all the way up to Maine, up pretty much Route 1. So if you ever get a chance to look at the Google at the POTA maps, if you follow that whole entire coastline from Hampton Beach State Park all the way straight up to Kittery, there's about 10 parks there. And so we set out, and I have to say 2 things. One, if whoever you take with you on the rove, make sure if they are a ham, that you guys split the duties. That's like the biggest thing. So like Todd was always on the antenna, I was on the radio, getting everything set up. Then we both sat down, did our logs, and we're ready and running off. The other piece to that is that we knew all of our 10 parks that we were doing, so we created pre-logs in hammers for all of them. So we just boom, boom, boom right through. So we didn't have to spend any time setting them up. But once we got to literally we started at 8:30 in the morning on a Friday, and by the second park we were already we hit 10, tear down, get in the truck, drive to the next one, set back up, and we were up and running in like 8.5 minutes. It was probably about 10 minutes total for the trip time between parks. And once we were back up and running, Todd was just doing his thing, I was doing my thing. We didn't talk to each other, and then we just sat down on the bench. And one thing I bought, it's been on my channel in the past, and I've done some shorts on it, is get a splitter, get a mic splitter, and then that way each of you have your own mic. And then there's no passing the mic. There's no oh, hold on a sec. It's just and you got to play off each other, because a lot of times Todd will get the call the first time, and then I'll follow after. And so you just kind of build this rapport, and you kind of feel it all out, which is made the whole process. By the time we got to the 5th park, it was only new time. And we're like, this is awesome. We're at the 5th park. And then that's what happened, is we hit the wall at that point, and we hit the wall hard, because we were we brought some snacks, because that's what I kind of planned for, but they just weren't enough to put us over the edge, and we'd already ran out of water, and we're like, oh man, we got 3-4 more parks, and then we're 2:00 rolls around, and you just start to slow down. So it's a marathon when you build a rove, but the same time, you know, you just know that your schedule is going to slide on you, no matter how many people you've got with you.
Now, you talked about the passing the mic, and the one thing I've wondered, do you guys always pass the mic, or do you do like take turns where you'll do 10 and then he'll do 10, that kind of a thing? And what do you find better?
I got my own opinion on that, but anybody else want to throw in?
Always pass the mic.
I haven't really done it through a Rove, but I've done it where just my buddy and I used to go out. We'd go on a Saturday, we'd go hit a park, and we'd make the contacts, and we've done it both ways. It's one of those things. It's like he'll make 13 contacts, and I've got all of a sudden the lights just turn on, and I've got like 25 contacts now. So then he wants to try and make a few more contacts too. And I think it's better we just try and instead of doing, hey, dual operator, I've got another operator for you, and then all right, now go to the next contact, and it's like, all right, now I'm holding the mic, and he's all right, now I got a second operator. He's going to operate. It's easier for them to make 10 contacts. I make my 10 contacts and just move on and be done, versus trying to do that dual operator thing back and forth. It just takes too much time.
Okay. So here's my 2 cents on it. The 10 and 10 scenario, at least for me, and again, you run your activation the way you run your activation. That's the way you kind of stand with it. But when you do the 10 and 10, you actually, based off of my calculations and some of the rough numbers that I put together, if you're in a Rove scenario, that, you know, adds an additional between 10 and 15 more minutes to your overall, you know, activation time, you know, because what ends up happening is that when you're in the middle of that first 10, the bank conditions can change. You know, POTA hunters forget that there's a second activation at the same park and just assume that it's not part of the same, you know, kind of dual Rove. And so what ends up happening is that you end up losing a lot of those extra people you get. So the mic connector part worked flawlessly, especially when you just have 2 mics, because the other person just brings their radio as a spare backup, and then and a couple of spare batteries, and then you just really only bring in radio, battery, antenna, and you know, you go off and do your own thing, set the mics up and go. And it's really just efficient from my standpoint to say, you know, hey, I've got another operator, pay attention, you know, here it is. And then by the time you find that a lot of hunters realize that it's a Rove and you've stated that it's a Rove, they'll catch on that they're just automatically going to expect that second hunter or second activators.
I love the mic splitter.
That's a great idea. For sure.
It's such a game changer with each person having their own mic. Yeah.
Yeah. If my bag was around, I should go grab it, but yeah.
I got a feeling that the mic splitters are cheaper than getting band pass filters. So that's
Yeah, that's true.
100%, man. 100%. For sure. Yeah. If you want to save some money, buy a splitter.
Yeah, well, I just looking at it now, we're coming up close to 8 o'clock. So I know that I think Paul and Matt had said they haven't done Roves before. So like, you guys got anything that we didn't cover?
Or did we scare you away?
Yeah.
I'm not much of a park activator right now. I did it in 2016 with National Parks on the Air, and our club will activate a park and invite us to come along, and I'll go operate with the setup they already have. But we're a little more serious. We're there for the whole day. We're running 100 watts with a generator. Actually, no, we're running 600 watts with a generator and high dipoles up in the tree. One of my friends in the club, I don't think you can call it a Rove because it's not in the same UTC day. He went to 3 rare ones here in Vermont. No cell coverage. It was in a place called Glover, Vermont, and he spent all day at one park and went to another park for the night. Worked most of the night at the other park. Woke up the next day and went to a third park. They're all right near each other, but that's how he roves. And he roves like with 600 watts and a high dipole. And he does a lot of CW and very, very serious efforts. But I haven't done a whole lot with it lately. But like I said, our club is going to be activating a park for field day because we kind of got kicked out of our old location because it's under construction. And we found this place is actually the closest park to me. It's less than a mile. So, and I've actually activated with the park there before, with the club there before. So we're kind of looking forward to that. I don't know if it's going to get us more contacts for field day, but we do pretty good anyway because we just won 2 alpha for the whole country for 2 alpha for field day.
Field day royalty, guys.
So it might bring us some more. I'm not sure how we're going to call CQ. I'm in the CW tent all night. I don't think I'm going to be messing around with sending the park number, but the phone guys are probably going to have to pass it out once in a while.
Mm-hmm. Oh, very cool. Yeah, Matt, Paul.
Awesome. What about you, Matt? You got any last questions?
Paul number 2. We like to chat a lot, so I like to get as many contacts as possible. So when some people come back in, I don't want to leave them hanging. You know, I stay there. Like Paul said, enjoy nature, sit there, relax, and you know, get 40, 50, 100 contacts in a day. But I don't know, I'll have to try this roving idea out the planet and at least do a 3-park rove in the future and potentially make a video and say, hey, look, you can do it with a wire antenna. Might be a challenge.
Hey, Matt, you are coming up to NeHR, so there's at least 3 parks on the way up to NeHR.
Yes.
No problem.
There you
go. Oh, we did a national park after NeHR one time.
Oh, yeah. Well, why is that drink? I'm trying to remember which one that one is. Oh, man, it's escaping me. Look that one up. But anyway,
I can't remember. I think it's on my YouTube channel.
Nice.
Awesome. So what has everybody got coming up next? Let's start with you, Eric.
I was going to say, Paul, you want to throw in your 2 cents as I cut you off?
No, it's all good. You know, so I'll be coming back from Florida during NeHR. So Matt, we'll have to link up after NeHR, and we'll go. You know, we'll plan it. We'll plan it simple. We'll do a 3-parker.
You got it.
You newbies.
Yeah. Then we get time to talk to people.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Well, I guess for me, I just a couple of things been going on. I've been putting a quick video series together on Ham Alert. So any of those guys that feel like they're traditional newbies with Ham Alert and want to kind of leverage the power of Ham Alert and you know, trying to nab those worked-all states or you know those rare atnos that you want to get on the list, or maybe you're working a couple of hunters in a specific area. I'll be coming out with a couple more videos along the way, you know, on how to use and leverage some of the advanced features in Ham Alert. And I just released another video on my trip down to South Carolina, which was a blast. We hit our infamous, you know, K-Murder Buc-ee's. If you can see this in my glass, there we go. I turned it this way. So I got my, you know, official Buc-ee's glass. So I'm kind of excited. You know, I got to sample the beef jerky and I think I got my daughter hooked, so I'm gonna have to fly down again to buy more beef jerky. So if anybody knows how to ship that up very quickly, just you know reach out to me at n1jur.nh@gmail.com. But yeah, so that's all I got.
Gotcha. How about you, Marvin?
Like I said, I'm taking off this next week, heading to Wisconsin. Got some property over there. I'll be getting a couple park activations while I'm there. Trying the 705 with a new mag loop. Obviously a night or two of hotel stay along the way. And I want to see how that's going to work doing some FT8, especially using the iPad. It can interface with the 705 for doing WSJTX. So I'm really kind of looking to try that out. And I've got a video coming out on the new Rig Expert Shackmaster 500 power supply here. So that should be coming out. Just released the podcast yesterday as well. One I do every 2 weeks. So video should be out the next day or two here though.
Yeah, guys, we'll throw the links in the chat there. So if you want to, you know, show some love, feel free to head over there.
Yeah. How about you, Matt?
Me, I'm going to be doing a video on how to spot yourself when there is no cell service. So I'm going to work on that. And another one is setting up a wire antenna in the pitch black, and best ways to do that tactfully and being able to get it out of the tree without really being able to see it. No, not using night vision would be cool, but
Yeah.
I mean, I got to spend all my money on radios, not night vision, like all of us. So that's what's coming out in the future. Obviously, heading up to NeHR Fest at the end of April. I wish the dates were better, but it is what it is.
Sounds good. How about you, Rob?
Well, I wish I could make it to NeHR Fest, but I got to work those 2 days. Normally, if it was on the Saturday, I'd be up there, but not this time. Hopefully in the fall, it'll be back on Friday and Saturday. Other than that, I don't really plan ahead. So I'm not sure what's coming up. You guys will be just as surprised as I am when you see it. I guess the only thing that's really on deck is I'm trying to get a 2-meter 440 radio installed in my car, but that's really the only thing I know I'm working on. Other than that, we'll see what happens together.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to more of your car install videos, because the Outback has been on my watch list for a bit, and so I saw the last video you just did on that lip mount kind of and that was interesting to see. So I might have to refer back to that down the road. We'll see if there's an Outback. I
like the car, but it's a tin can, so I mean,
yeah,
but they all are now. So, but we'll see how it goes.
How about you, Paul, down in Vermont, or up in Vermont, I should say?
Up in Vermont. I don't have any parks planned. I've been off and on. I've been trying to answer a backlog of QSL cards that I've been getting from the Bureau, and just letting them pile up. And I answered a whole bunch of them. Still haven't sent them to the Bureau, and I actually ran out of cards, so I had a new one made up. This is a painting that a guy in Ukraine found online of. This is right around the block from me. Somebody painted the middle of Essex Junction. Wow. And I thought, that'll look good on the card. And then
it's really nice.
Yeah, and the back of it has got my awards and stuff on it. And like DXCC and Worked All Continents and stuff. Triple play. So I kind of took a couple weeks off from that while the cards were on order, and I got to get back into that and answering them and getting them out to the Bureau. But I don't know, maybe we'll try. I won a radio at NeHR Fest. I won the grand prize. And
somebody wins radios? How is that possible?
Win those things.
I won it twice. The grand prize at NeHR Fest.
The FT891, the little one, because it was under $500, and Mr. Mike was trying to keep it under $500. Haven't opened the box yet, but maybe I'll get that open one of these days, and maybe I'll take it to a park. And I noticed, Eric, I think you use one in your park activations. You have the guardrails on it, right?
Of the 891, or yeah. I
portable
had
zero.
2 sets of those. I had the portable zeros. I had 3D printed ones that just basically disintegrated on a trip, and so I bought the metal ones, and those things rock.
Oh, so yeah, maybe I will try to do a more serious effort with that, because it does sound like a lot of fun.
That is, you're missing out. Definitely, it will definitely support you when you're doing your first activation. I guarantee I'll make sure I put you on Ham Alert.
All right.
Nice. How about you, Paul?
Well, so let's see. I've also got a backlog of QSL cards to send off to the Bureau, but I got some video footage that I got to edit. I'm really bad at the video editing thing. So I just got the FX4CR video up, and I went out, but yesterday I got another 160 contacts out of the park. So I'm just under 500, halfway to my kilo. And then April 8th is the total solar eclipse. So we're going up to Pittsburgh so that we can be in the total blackout zone. And I'm gonna make it a science fair thing for my son. He's 13. We're just moving out of the public school into homeschool, and so I'm gonna bring the radio and temperature sensors and different things, and try and track the solar eclipse and how it affects the radio and everything else. And then the third week of April, I'll be driving down to Florida, going to New Smyrna Beach for the week. The wife is going to enjoy some toes in the sand time, and I'm gonna activate some parks and hopefully get down to Cape Canaveral. But yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
I'm going to be in Woodsville, New Hampshire for the eclipse. My sister has
nice.
a place there, so yeah, maybe we'll try 6 meters or something. I don't know.
I'm going to be in my house, and it's coming right over my house.
Wow.
Oh, that's
No
right.
kidding.
Yeah.
It's coming right over me too. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be nuts out here in
Going to be going
Rochester. It's
3,000 miles an hour.
I'm going to be getting toilet paper and bread. Sorry.
Oh, and I will be.
But I was out at the store today, and like there's like this onslaught now of all these craft beers that have like eclipse themes because like Western New York, Buffalo, Rochester, like we're kind of right in that path, and it's hilarious.
And
But,
I forgot to mention I will be at Nearfest.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Sweet.
Both
Meet up.
days. I'm planning both days. I think they're kicking us out early on Friday, right?
Yeah.
2 o'clock.
Screw up. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox.
Yeah.
I'll be
I
there.
will be out playing radio in the eclipse. I just don't know exactly where yet. I haven't thought that far ahead. Kind of like Rob. Like I got a list of things I would like to do, but I'll get to them when I get to them. But I do have 2 antenna builds coming up I got to do because I did buy the Reliance 9-to-1. And I got that sitting there. I just got to put a wire on the thing and get it in the air. And I should have arriving very soon the new Poseidon from Coffee and Ham Radios, which is essentially a Ribacoff antenna. And I'm a big fan of the Ribacoff. I think it'll be neat to have something where it's kind of an all-in-one with the winder incorporated. So I'm looking forward to getting that on the air too. So I'll have 2 builds that hopefully are pretty straightforward and pretty simple coming up soon. So looking forward to playing with some new antennas and just getting out there and enjoying the nice weather that we've been fortunate to have up in the Northeast.
Yes,
it has not
indeed.
been a typical winter for sure. So
Well, this ain't typical for you guys. Again, I moved here in December, so
yeah.
I blame the solar cycle.
Oh, really? I prefer it. I like the solar cycle as it is. I don't want to be in the dark times.
Yeah. And as far as radio goes on the eclipse day, I'm going to leave my radio on probably on 40 meters FT8, and it'll just report everything it sees. And so as the propagation changes, at least it'll go to wherever it goes. I can't think of it right now. So that'll be part of the research. I'll be contributing that way.
Oh, very cool. Yeah.
It'll just be monitoring.
Cool. All right. Well, listen, I think we kind of gone over a few. I know, I think Josh, Ham Radio Crash Course has probably started his live stream and stuff. So I want to thank everyone who joined us in the chat for watching. Thank everyone here on the stream for taking time out of the day on St. Patty's Day Eve. Hope everyone enjoys the weekend, and I don't have the ability to push a button, so I think that's up to you, Eric. But
That would be me.
but I had a blast with this. This was great. I'm looking forward to doing it again next month.
absolutely.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, guys. All
Hey,
right.
Thank you.
Yep,
7:30.
thank you.
You're wrong.
Thanks.
7-3, everyone.
7-3, guys.